Objection, chair is done, so ordered. Mr. Hunter.
Members, this is Make Texas Film Industry Great Again bill. Let's hear it. No, we're not going to be doing filming of oysters. We're not doing filming of shrimp. But TWIA, get ready. Members, I wanted to get your attention. This is one of the bills that has had more different interpretations than I can count. And so I want to be very, very to the point and tell you what this film bill does. Number one, this is not the money bill. That's in the budget. You already voted, or some of you did, for the budget. This money is placed in the budget. That's not this bill. You already voted. What does this bill do, Representative Dutton, which you and I talked? It provides safeguards on how Texas spends money on film. Why am I involved? I can't bear to see the Alamo, ranching, Texas, filmed out of Texas.
That's right.
Look at all the veteran movies. Why are they being filmed out of Texas? So what we have got to do is what President Trump tweeted. And I know I have both sides of the aisle here, but I agree with him. Let's let the states start taking control, because there are going to be tariffs placed on out-of-area films. So what this basically is a structure to create the safeguards when you use money in Texas. Now let me explain this. The criteria for doing film, you do an application, the criteria is laid out. You cannot go into illicit areas. You cannot go into demeaning areas in the state. The governor's office has oversight. There are safeguards built in the bill. But I want to pull out different areas of the state. Waco, Texas, everybody, is one of the top 2 tourist destinations in the U.S. because of the Magnolia Network, like Fixer Upper. And all you know votes, don't tell me you don't watch HGTV, because we're watching. The Chosen, the life of Jesus, is filmed in Texas. Members, they spent $88 million in the small town of Midlothian, Texas, created over 3,400 jobs, Representative Romero. Taylor Sheridan, you've all heard of him, Miss T. He spent over $1.2 million a day over the course of a week in Strawn, Texas, which has a population a little over 500. What does the film do? If any of you have not had the film, my area doesn't, John Bryant. I don't get a lot in my area, these films, but it fills my restaurants. It fills the hotels. It gets electricians hired. It gets carpenters hired, Representative Jones. It provides retail and commercial business. This isn't Hollywood coming to Texas. This is Texas taking over Hollywood. We're doing our own thing. We don't need to be part of them. And they should be scared, because this bill brings it to our state, and we as a legislature should be the oversight of the Texas film industry. Nobody else. Some of you met in the hallways. Dennis Quaid played Reagan. Let's don't forget that, from Houston. Then we've got Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, who are filming Brothers. I'm sure they'll do Sisters soon. But the bottom line is they live in Dripping Springs. These are Texans. Bring it on, amen. Yeah. Salina, my hometown, Corpus Christi. There's a film that should have been made in Texas, in my hometown. So the reason I want to make this impact on all of you, I get rhetoric, I get sound bites, but a lot of this is derivative of another bill, by the way, that was not this bill. All this bill is, as Representative Schatzline and I talked about, is a guardrail bill. All this is doing is putting in protections so Texas can develop its own film. And let me tell you something, Fort Worth, the Tarrant County, growing into Dallas, you're becoming one of the biggest film zones in the United States. So what I'm trying to encourage you is let's get some showing positive for the art industry, which film is part of. And my last comment is, Richard Raymond, my good friend, he had just informed me that he and Ryan Guillen, they are filming and producing a South Texas political film. And it's based on one of the historic figures in South Texas. And I'm just glad to see the focus. And I want you to know, I'm not offended on the robust commentary. You know what it's doing is, whether you're for or against, everybody in this world is seeing that we care. And the bottom line is, everybody that votes for this bill, I'm going to be with you. And everybody who votes against it, I'm still going to be with you. But I'm going to love the yeses more than I am the noes. Now, I'm going to finally end like this, Mr. Speaker. I want all the votes we can get, because, members, the last calendar's meeting is already ended, so I don't have any more control. So the bottom line is, make Texas film industry great again.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, will gentleman yield for questions?
Ms. Martinez-Fisher, what purpose? Gentleman yields for questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chair Hunter. I just want to clarify, because you had my support. Richard Raymond's not going to be in that South Texas film, is he?
No, it's an animation he's going to be in.
Okay.
So.
okay, perfect. And Ryan and Chair Guillen's going to be the stunt double, I guess. So, Chair Hunter, I want to talk. You talked a lot about guardrails. I want to make sure that we clarify. We had the benefit of hearing this in committee, and so we spent almost a full day on this hearing. And a lot of people don't know that this is actually a reimbursement for a film. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So let me give everybody a little bit of history, because much of this is confusing, and I understand. I believe the film program, Alan and a few of us have been here a long time, was created in 2007. So I want you to know the program on the film, I believe, has been since 2007. This is creating a separate process with guardrails. And by the way, since you brought this up, some of you think this is $500 million. That is incorrect. It's my understanding that they're looking at the sum of $300 million. So that is an incorrect. But what this does, Representative, is you do an application process. The governor's office has oversight. You have to follow that criteria. If the criteria is you go forward, and you only get reimbursed after an audit, and by the way, since you brought that up, if any editing,
The gentleman's time has expired. I'm so sorry. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Martinez Fisher.
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez Fisher on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is an amendment. In the committee testimony, there were two things that struck me in this debate, and it had to do with where the films are going to be made. And so what I'm attempting to do in this amendment is we're doing two things. We are giving an incentive, an additional incentive for films that are done in front of historic sites. So we have battlegrounds, we have battleships, we have historic missions like the Alamo in San Antonio. And so for any project that wants to come and do a film or a project, they can look at historic sites as an additional incentive. The second thing that was a big priority for me in the committee, as well as other members of the committee, is you heard a lot about workforce pipeline. We were talking about jobs in this industry on the low end at $70,000 per employee. And so what we learned in the testimony that there lacks a pipeline. We do not have that workforce pipeline of students and folks who are going to study radio, television, and film. So this amendment also says that if you're going to do a project and you partner with a college to build that workforce pipeline, we will also give you an additional incentive. And so those are the two things this amendment does.
Mr. Speaker.
Building a
Ms.
workforce
Gerben-Hawkins, for
pipeline
what purpose?
and historical sites.
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Gentleman yield for questions.
I yield.
Gentleman yields.
Representative Fisher, thank you for that that amendment, and we want to do a lot of clarifying so people could get comfortable why this is a great opportunity for the state of Texas. I've been involved as a co-author on this bill for the last 3 sessions, so it has not been easy. So let's talk about the benefits. I want to know if you're aware that one of the things in talking and negotiating with making sure this happened, we involved the universities on the front end, because one of the things was how they developed programming so that we could keep our artistic young people in Texas. Right. Our design people, they could create a curriculum around there, our production folks, and then our makeup artists, all of those things that are a big part of that, and those are some of the jobs. And I know you shared some others. So what do you think are some of the other jobs that will be beneficial to our communities?
Sure. Well, first I'll say is a very good example. You have Tarrant County College that when they started their film school, they had 40 students in the initial class. Now they are producing a number of students who are going right to work in Tarrant County. As you know, because you have worked on this for several sessions, there are now sound studios in Tarrant County or in the region that rival like a Warner Brothers lot in California, and those sound stages are booked every day of the year. So we're talking about full employment, real jobs, real wages, and I know that in my conversations with our community college system, we have a radio, television, film program at San Antonio College. My advice was whatever they're doing in Tarrant, go copy it.
Right.
And for all of you who have community colleges or film programs at your schools, look to something like a Tarrant County College to find that program. But then there are the other jobs that you mentioned, right? Somebody has to build a set. Somebody has to drive the truck. If I'm not mistaken, the Teamsters are supporting this proposal because of the number of truck drivers they will have driving big commercial vehicles to build these sets. So somebody's building the sets, they're wiring these sets, they are running these sets. There are so many jobs behind the camera that people don't see that are paying real wages.
So we're talking about new university programming, we're talking about jobs, we're talking about economic development, we're talking that big umbrella of wonderful things that can happen here in the state of Texas.
I think the number in the committee was for every dollar that's invested in this program, $4.69 come back. So it is a multiplier. And again, we're just talking about the Texas spend. We're talking about the money that is spent here in Texas. And so it is doing wonderful things for our economy. You heard about Magnolia in McLennan County. There's also where The Chosen is been filmed in Midlothian, Texas. I can give you page and line what it's done for that community. I mean, there was a hotel that was going to close due to COVID, and now they're busting at the seams at 100% occupancy because of film projects that are being done in that area. So it does change below the line. That's the checks and money that people are taking home.
And so when we look at a model that exists, we're talking about the Georgia model also, which is a great one with Tyler Perry. So now we're talking Texan and real Texan stories, not those folks coming from out of Texas making up our own stories. Would you agree with that?
I would, and if you probably remember from the committee hearing, you had Matthew McConaughey saying, you know, don't make me go to Georgia. And in fact, those two filmmakers took a pay cut so they can convince the studio that they were serious about shooting this in Texas because they wanted to be here. And you heard Chair Hunter talk about his Selena Quintanilla, who had a big show about her, and the majority of the filming was done in Mexico, should have been in Corpus.
So we're talking about the investments that we're making are going to be 4 times that investment because of the dollar per and the return on investment. Would you agree with that?
I would, almost $4.69.
And finally, I would just say this. The state of Texas has the land space, it has the ambiance, it has the young people that we can keep here in our state. We're impacting the colleges and universities. So there is really no downside to this. I think what needs to be clear, though, people are asking, when we look at percentages of participations, that's pretty much laid out in the bill.
It is, and it will grow over time as we've developed the workforce pipeline. This is a start. It's a great start, and I'm grateful that Chair Hunter will accept this amendment. I believe it's acceptable. I'd like to move adoption of the amendment.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hunter to speak in favor of the amendment.
Members, I know this was discussed. Let me explain something. San Antonio's Alamo is heritage rather than fits under the historic definition. So what we're doing to help the Bexar County area is, since some markers and sites in Texas are defined heritage, they don't fit under historic. So bottom line, we're putting heritage in the criteria along with historic. Viva Alamo!
Great bill. Let's vote for it, everybody. It's be awesome.
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez-Fisher to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move adoption.
Mr. Martinez-Fisher sends up an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. There is a record vote that has been requested. Clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Martinez-Fisher voting aye. Ms. Yolanda Jones of Harris voting aye. Mr. Romero voting aye. Ms. Gervin Hawkins voting aye. Mr. Hunter voting aye. Ms. Gracia voting aye. Mr. Wally voting aye. Mr. King voting aye. Ms. Johnson voting aye. Mr. Little voting nay. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 105 ayes, 34 nays, the amendment is adopted. Anyone wishing to speak on, for, or against Senate Bill 22, Chair recognizes Mr. Lowe to speak against the bill.
Mr. Speaker, members, I rise today in opposition to Senate Bill 22. This bill provides tax...
Apologies, Mr. Lowe. Members, please take your conversations outside the rail.
This bill provides taxpayer-funded incentives to the film and entertainment industry, the same industry that once hailed Harvey Weinstein as a hero and turned a blind eye to his abuse for years. It took public outrage and national shame before Hollywood even pretended to hold him accountable. This is also the same industry that trashed us for supporting President Trump, mocked us for standing up for the unborn, vilified us for opposing gender transitions for children, and ridiculed our Christian faith at every opportunity. And now we are expected to trust them to produce family-friendly content and reimburse them $2.5 billion over the next decade? Let me be clear. Texas families are struggling. They're being crushed by rising property taxes. And instead of delivering them meaningful relief, This legislature seems to be more focused on picking winners and losers, reimbursing Hollywood, subsidies while ignoring the people who sent us here. If we truly believe in a limited government and fiscal responsibility, then we cannot justify fueling tax dollars into an industry that mocks our values, undermines our culture, and refuses to be held accountable. Let's stop the Hollywood handouts, let's put Texans first, and let's vote no to SB 22.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hunter to close.
Move passage.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Hayes, for what purpose?
will the member yield for a question?
Gentlemen, you for questions?
Sure.
Gentlemen,
Thank
yields.
you. Mr. Hunter, this is Senate Bill number 22, which is the engrossed version of the bill from the Senate.
Yes.
An engrossed version means it's the finally approved by the Senate.
Well, I will tell you, Representative, I love the Senate and I love their bills, but I've learned nothing's ever final. But the answer to your question is yes.
All right, if I go to page 12 of your bill on line 3, does it not read, not later than the 30th day of each state fiscal biennium, the comptroller shall deposit to the credit of the Texas Moving Image Industry Incentive Fund $500 million?
Yes, but if
You have not offered an amendment to lower $500 million to $300 million.
it could go up to 500. They haven't finalized the budget. That's what they're being discussed, but you'll have a ceiling of that.
So where did the $300 million number come from that I heard you reference earlier?
Because I've heard the conference committee is looking at those numbers.
So the only thing for the conference committee really to consider is the amendment that we just passed that had nothing to do with the dollar amount of this enabling legislation?
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Sure. Move passage.
Members, question occurs on passage to third reading of Senate Bill 22. Record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Romero voting aye, Mr. Wally voting aye, Mr. Turner voting aye, Mr. Hunter voting aye, Mr. King voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? So Mr. Guerin voting aye. Have all members voted? There being 105 ayes, 34 nays, Senate Bill 22 passes to third reading.